directly from the lobby of this hotel running at full speed. Over 9 miles per hour. Hi. How's it going? Good to see you guys. Seriously. Woo. I know it was a tough call coming here tonight because there's like all sorts of other rad things happening. There's like the concert happening, and there's like the people making out in some rooms happening. If you don't know, then you don't know. Because the first thing about the making out panels is talk about the making out panel. So there you go. Yeah, so I guess you guys know who I am because I was on the program, but in case you don't, I'll just give you a quick history. I'm Christopher Sabat. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I own a studio called Overtron 5000. I've worked for Funimation Productions for 1.5 billion years. I was one of their first 4 employees. I did the voice of Vegeta, Piccolo, Yamcha, Mr. Popo, Kami, Jace, the Dragons, Gaz, Mez, Zarvan, Raccoon, Icarus, and a few others that I always forget. Omega Shenron. Everyone in the Frieza saga, and then a couple characters later on. Everyone in the Frieza saga, and then everyone once we ran out of people again and again and again. There is a reason for that, and I don't know if you've been in a panel where I've explained this, but like back in the early days of Funimation, like in 1999 or 98 when I first started working there, we didn't have a lot of people that were working on DragonBall Z at the time. As I said, Funimation only had like a handful of people working for them at that time. I was probably their 4th employee and the only person that really wasn't a family member that started working there. And so they didn't know that DragonBall Z was going to be a hit, and they didn't have the money they eventually got from DragonBall Z being a hit. So they weren't really able to pay actors a lot of money to do what they were doing. So the agents in Dallas were like, whatever, I'm not sending people there. So we had to really dig to find actors that would work on the show. So that's why anytime there was kind of a lack of actors, I ended up having to do it myself. Not because I thought I was that awesome, but because everyone else did. I'm just kidding. No, it was because literally we didn't have anybody. I can actually remember our cast list. It fit on an 8.5, probably by like 6 sheet of paper. It's only like this big, and it had Sean Schimmel, Sonny Strait, Stephanie Nadolny, Tiffany Vollmer, Christopher Sabat, Saley Delgadillo, Cynthia Kranz, let's see, Mike McFarland. It was a really, really short list of people, and like outside of that, you just had to kind of gamble as to who you were getting. So, and a lot of the other voices I inherited, like Corin and Ox King, I inherited those from people who took jobs, and Mr. Popo, for instance. Those are people who ended up having to do other things, like the voice of Ox King and Corin. His name is Mark Britton. He goes by the name of the Chinaman. He's a stand-up comic, and he had to go on a tour, so we had to replace him immediately and without much warning. So I ended up doing those voices, and then Chris Kaysen, who was the voice of Tien Shinhan and Mr. Popo, he had to leave to go on a theater tour. So I took Mr. Popo, and John Bergmeyer took Tien. There wasn't a lot of time because in those early days we were racing the clock to try and get those episodes onto Cartoon Network. And it was taking us a really long time. I mean, we could do it in our sleep now, but back then we had really clunky old equipment. I mentioned earlier this morning, we used to use these giant 3/4 beta decks. They're like about 10 inches by 10 inches, and you shove this giant cartridge in the machine, and anytime you had to go to the next scene, it would go. I'm not kidding. Anyone who worked with me at that time knows this. You literally could leave. If you had to rewind, God forbid, the engineer had forgotten to rewind the episode from the end, you had to wait 10 or 15 minutes for it to go on at the beginning of the tape. It was that slow. So that explains a lot of the voices I had to do. And not to mention, we didn't know that DragonBall Z was going to be such a huge success. So I don't know. I ended up with them, and I didn't make that much money when I was working there. In fact, I was like a full-time employee at the time. I was working your average, like starting job there at that time too. So it's not like I made huge bank on it then. But it was a lot of fun to record the Dragon Ball Z series, and that's my explanation of that. I just ran over here, remember? So I'm like, all right, so focus, Chris, Dragon Ball Z. Do you guys have any questions that might be able to start me out? Like, yeah, right in the front.
Really, you obviously you didn't know this community you did, now you voice so many other characters that people know. I mean, you see all these people in this tiny room, they're here for you. I mean, what is it like to know that you voice something that's makes you part of the life?
Oh, it is such a trip. It was a trip 10 years ago, seeing my voice actually on TV. That was one of the coolest moments of my entire life. We had a cast party the day it first ran, the first day it ran on Toonami, and we were all just so stoked. Your heart just drops, and it's so fun. And you hear, like, it's just a. I can't lie and say that it was my dream to be a voice actor my entire life. I didn't know what voice acting was when I was a kid because we didn't have the internet. We just had stupid stuff on TV. Like, that's it. We couldn't look up what the name of a voice actor was. You had to actually, like, I don't know, find somebody who knew who the voice actor was or something like that. So when I ended up hearing my voice on TV the first time, that was just absolutely amazing. And then now it's 12 years later, and I'm meeting people who are driving their own cars, and like they're all telling me that they watched it when they were 6 years old, and when they were 8 years old, and they run home from school to watch it. And it's such a huge honor to meet all of you guys, because you're like, I heard your voice every day at like 3:30 or 4:30, whenever it came on at night. I had to run home from school to catch it. So it's such a huge honor to meet everybody, and everyone's so big. And because I met you all, whether you realize it or not, when you were really tiny, like when you were really small, and you came with your parents and you didn't say anything.
I was 10 years old and 23 now.
Yep, 10 years old. He's 23 now. The testament to it. What's funny is that back in the early days when we were working so hard to get Dragon Ball in the air, the Funimation staff was really small, and then Dragon Ball kind of started blowing up, and we were still working really hard to keep it on TV. I was starting to get a bunch of fan mail. Like, a lot of people were writing me and sending me like pictures and valuable like cards and things like that. They wouldn't put a self-addressed envelope on it, and some of them did. But regardless of whether they did or not, I was like early college at the time. I was lucky if I actually paid my electricity bill, because I'm technically allergic to the mail system. I hate mailing anything. But I saved all of it. So recently, my wife and I have been going through all these old boxes, and if there was a self-addressed stamped envelope, I've been signing it and sending it back to people now, like 13 years later. And this girl came up to me at a convention. She's like, why did you like send a picture of your face to my grandma's house? I was like, did you ever write to me when you were a kid? Oh crap, one summer I totally did, yeah. So I'm like, I'm not going to your grandma, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah.
Before, I have something else to say before I get to that. I was wondering if you would have time to sign some of my stuff after you're the hot seat video game.
I'll probably have time to do that at some
Yeah,
point.
I've got a gift for you. This is a tribute to your work in Armstrong. It's a compilation of songs for the body.
What? Songs for the body, including liner notes. Side A, oh, Under My Thumb, Smashing Pumpkins, Muscle of Love, Who, Green Day, Flick of the Wrist, and the Leaf of the... Yeah, okay. I'm putting this in my Walkman right away. I hope there's an after this. The sad thing is I'm probably the only person in this room besides him that actually does still have his cassette Walkmans, except for that. Okay. Okay, she still has a tape deck in her car. Yeah, they just don't make a lot of cassettes anymore that are AirPlay compatible, so I can play them. Anyway, it's weird. Yeah. Yeah, I voiced a lot of characters.
Do you have any special attacks that you prefer? You know, do you have, or sayings? Any character that you really got?
Let's see. It would be it's a lie for me to actually ever try and say that any other character can trump Vegeta as my favorite character. That's right. He's calling up right now. But it's only because he's been my roommate for the last 12 years. So I live with lots of other people too, like Piccolo and Yamcha and Mr. Popo and all those people. But Vegeta is the most demanding of all of my roommates. And it's so, yeah, I love that character so much. Like everything that he did. Back in the early days, I was saying earlier, we didn't have a lot of the materials that would have been great to use if we were dubbing it again. Like when we dubbed Kai, we had so much access to the internet. We could always look up references to things. We didn't have that. In fact, the only references we had was like the Spanish version of DragonBall Z. That's what we recorded. Like so the tapes we used, we couldn't get them from Japan fast enough, so we had to buy the tapes from the Mexican staff that dubbed it in Mexico. And so it was like, and it was like Chi-Chi's name was Milk, I guess. Because obviously Chi-Chi's not a very appropriate name in Spanish. So, but yeah, we didn't. So when we were recording Dragon Ball the first time, I didn't have all of the episodes. I didn't even have I didn't even have the Android saga when we started, so I didn't honestly know what was going to happen. I'm serious, I didn't know. So there are a lot of moments where Vegeta goes Super Saiyan for the first time, or he fights Android 19, or where he finally gets to fight Goku. Those were really cool moments for me. I'm like, oh, yes. I get the scripts and I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome. So there are a lot of things that I think I would have done differently with certain characters, like Piccolo, for instance. Because we didn't dub the Dragon Ball series either until after we dubbed Dragon Ball Z. So if I'd known kind of more about Piccolo's history, I think it would have been a little easier. And so you guys can yell at me all you want. Yeah, Chris, you could have done your research, but really I couldn't find anybody. And people who really loved anime didn't like Funimation back then, so they weren't really willing to talk to me. Man, it's so nice to come to conventions now and actually, like, be able to stand in front of you and you guys like me. Because back in the early days, like in 1999, 2000, a panel like this would probably have about 8 of you in it. And the people go, yes, you have a question? Why did you guys ruin the music? Well, it wasn't really my decision. Why did you guys change the cast from the Canadian cast? That was stupid. Well, that's cool. We're happy. I'm glad you came here since you like this so much. But yeah, it's totally different now. And then we ended up working on, this is Dragon Ball, we ended up working on One Piece, and we got to be the people that sort of rescued the dub from being awkward, Yes. Oh my God, there were so many days where there were days when I'd go in and I'd look at the script and go, oh God, that was to be honest, quite a few days. Like, especially once you have one day where you have to scream at the top of your lungs for hours, to have to kind of wake up and do it the next morning is just a beating. And my voice was just trashed by the end of the first time we worked on Dragon Ball. It was really, really hard. Yes. I would lose my voice a little bit, but I never lost it fully. I never had full laryngitis, believe it or not. No, I mean, a lot of actors would, but for whatever reason, I was doing such constant damage to my voice that I guess it didn't hurt. Like, I developed this layer of Kevlar in my throat. Because I literally would taste blood after certain sessions. Like, I'm not kidding. It would have hurt. Because you scream that long, your vocal cords just tear and whatever. It's all for the love of it. And your vocal cords tear, and then you think you're done with the scene, and then the character is still screaming, so you have to do it again. Or the engineer's like, oh yeah, that one blew up actually. We peaked on that one. We gotta do that one more time. Yes. Oh wow, joint union hand of love right there.
I have to ask about that voice message Krillin call.
Voice message to Krillin call?
The one where a guy sounded exactly like Krillin called you. Now,
Mind out cool.
Oh. I'm going blank. Wait, I know the call, but I don't remember it fully. I have a really bad memory.
Was it Mondo Cool?
Oh, yes, that's right. Oh God, the details are so fuzzy with this. I remember like only bits of this. Will you tell the story real quick? Do you remember it?
I got it. I found it on the internet. It was a voicemail that was to you, and it was Krillin, and he was saying that he wanted Mondo Cool, and what was up with the Mondo Cool, and everything was Mondo Cool, and he was going Mondo freaking crazy.
Yeah, I could see that. I remember who that guy was too, and he was sort of right though, because those early scripts really were kind of weird. I mean, if you go back, almost every other line started with "Hey," and there was like Mondo Cool and everything. And the reason why we had to start it in "Hey" is because for whatever reason in that particular dub, it always started with like a single syllable word. It goes like blah. Blah, 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 blah. So it always like, hey, I've got a question. Hey. And if you didn't do 8,000, you hadn't worked on Dragon Ball. Like, you were lying. Awesome green microchip dress lady.
Have you ever passed out in the sound booth?
I have come very close. I've hyperventilated a lot in the sound booth, but I've been very lucky not to pass out. A few people have, like Eric Vale has passed out in there once before. Sean Schimmel's passed out in there, I think, once before. Yeah, there's been some near accidents in there. Yeah. Because you just get so carried away because you're staring at the screen, you're so focused, and you're screaming so loud that you just kind of forget what you're doing for a minute, and then you realize that you are, and then you feel really dizzy. Yes. What is my reaction to how popular Over 9,000 video is? It's a very weird thing for me because you guys know that that's like in that first iteration of the video, that is not my voice. You guys know that, right? Like that's the Brian Drummond's voice on that one. Some people don't know that. Yeah. And so I used to try and explain that to people when people would tell me about it, even though they have used that version of me a billion times, and I've recorded it 1,000 more times. It's become too difficult to actually argue with people. It takes way longer to go, hey man, I don't know, this is a guy with Brian Drummond. It's just usually easier to just give people what they want and just scream over 9,000 and get it over with. Then it's over, and then you move on, and then 2 minutes later you get to say it again. It's awesome. It is kind of weird though, because, and I will say, this panel has been amazing. This has been one of the best. These are the best questions I've had in a long time. And I think it's because this convention is truly more about the appreciation of Japanese culture, and it's about the appreciation of these shows, and less about just kind of putting a quarter in a jukebox and making voice actors do stuff. You guys, seriously, like the last convention I was at, what was I? I was in the UK. The most intelligent question came from like a 12-year-old boy. Like, I was like, wow, the rest of them were just like, have you seen the Bridge series? Will you quote this line to Bridge? Will you say, your mom is over 9,000? Would you say, Jenny, you're a jerk in Vegeta's voice? Like, and those are all funny things, but we used to, like back then, we used to really honestly talk about this stuff, and people would ask legitimate questions, and it just got all weird. And I'm sorry if any of you had your hands up, you're like, oh crap, man. I don't want to scare you from asking anything, but I have noticed that, like, over the years since the invention of this awesome gadget, that I tend to meet more people like this than I actually do face-to-face anymore. So I have, like, at times asked for no videos, because it's the only time I actually get to see people's faces, because they come up and before they say anything, then it's like, all right, now say something. Go ahead. I don't care who you are, just say it. Or just say that line. So there you go. Oh wow, unity of 3 hands combining back there. By the way, props and unique hand raises always do you well when it comes to these things. Yes, glowing face dude.
As someone who is part of Team Forrester, the guys who do the Abridged series, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Dragon Ball Kai is Dragon Ball Z essentially, right?
You could say that.
It's shortened, correct?
Right.
It's redubbed, right?
In a way, yes.
It's partially rewritten, correct?
It is completely rewritten, yes.
Way to be 4 years late to that party!
Wait, what's your name?
Sakura-Con 101 from Team 4.
Oh, yes. Am I going to see you next week, too?
Yes, yeah, we are down in Tampa Bay.
Oh,
Can I give you a hug now?
yeah, almost the entire Team 4-star group is going to be here. Like, we're all going to be at the same con together. And I was just at the con with Moscow X last week. Well, and say it.
Hey, Vegeta, got a question for you. Are we perhaps almost to the place in which we are aiming to get to?
Almost there.
Are we there yet?
Yeah, we're there yet.
Oh, thank God! I need to wax my head. What do you use?
I'm not a Yoshi.
But you said you were one.
I can't tell you how jealous I am of these guys, honestly.
I'm dressed.
I know, look at the way he's dressed. I'm jealous of this, right here. We have been dying to destroy that Dragon Ball Z dub forever, so the first time I actually saw the DBZ Bridge series, I was so, pleasantly, surprised, because we can't do it. And you guys are allowed to do it, it's amazing.
Kind of allowed to do it.
Well, you're sort of allowed to do it, but who cares? You're doing it anyway.
Actually, just aired some episodes from, aired some clips from episode 29, which will be going up here in a week down in Tampa Bay.
Down there.
Yeah, down there. Way down there. Yeah, exactly. But no, it's really awesome. I actually really wanted to beat you, and I'm totally beating the other guys out on the team. Sadly, the voice actor plays Vegeta is not here, but he will be down there, and I think he wants to talk to you as Vegeta talking to Vegeta. There's going to be cameras, and there's going to be a lot of interesting things, but I would like to do one thing. I think everyone would like to do one thing on stage here. Then you can have your panel back here. I would like to do the over 9,000 thing with you as Nappa and Vegeta. Would you guys like that? Okay, let's do this. Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000! That's okay, I got this. Oh yeah, I got this. Ooh, yeah, I got this. And he gets his ass horribly kicked.
We got it. Dude, it is seriously a pleasure. I wasn't prepared for this, man. I was mentally preparing to meet you guys next week. Yeah. Oh, it's over 9,000. OVR 1-800 OVR 9000. See you soon. Everyone, clap for this man who is awesome. I'm about to give him a sweet cassette tape, but I'm keeping that for myself. Wow. Now how do I even continue after that? I feel like we peaked now. Everything else is just going to be boring for me.
Choose the damn sparkly girl!
I'm sorry?
Please!
Oh, sorry. Sparkly hat people, you have a question. I apologize. Look, I just didn't want to choose you because I didn't want everyone to think I was choosing you because you're pretty.
You!
Yeah. Me. Yeah, I will. I really will. You're welcome.
Would you say that you are the voice of people's childhood?
Yes.
It's really creepy to say that. Yeah, I'm the voice that little children heard when they were really young. When they would run home from school to hear me talk to them. I am actually the voice that many kids heard right before they got in a lot of trouble. It's awesome, like being a part of Dragon Ball Z is like having this special magic that you can relate to anyone of any single age, and it's kick-ass, especially with young kids. You just go, I'm a Dragon Ball Z, shut up. I will. But then some of the parents are like, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, my son loves your show. And then he punches walls and breaks it. It's like, my work is done. My work is done. Yes.
You're the voice of my childhood.
I'm the voice of your childhood. Well, I'd love to be the voice of your adulthood, too. Still strongly. Oh, weird. Bear? A lot of things found me particularly. There were a lot of funny things that happened in Dragon Ball Z. The sad thing is, it's so long ago since we recorded it, it's hard to remember them all. Let's see. There's a scene, let's see. We recorded a lot of stuff that didn't make it onto the episodes, obviously, because there was just way too many moments. There's a moment like where Hercule holds his hands up in the air as with in some interviews, and his towel like drops or something like that. Or we assume that his towel drops or something like that. So there was a missing reporter saying, "What about your car?" Never quite made it in. I messed up on one of the Vegeta lines, and I knew automatically it was one of the lines where he's talking to his son, Trunks, about how he wishes, he regrets, or whatever, all those things, blah, blah, blah. You guys have seen it more recently than I have. But I knew I had hosed it from the beginning, so I just kept going. And so the clip is about, his speech ends up being like about 10 minutes long. And just kind of go over all these other cuts. Like he's no longer talking to even Trunks anymore. I finally had settled down. I bought an Xbox. And I got a gold account. And actually, at the time, it was like, I don't think you had the Xbox 360 when I recorded that. But anyway, I even bought a George Foreman grill. That's what it was. Finally settled down. Let's see. We were running so fast on that show, like a lot of the humor kind of didn't even make it anymore, though, because we were having to go so quickly that mistakes cost us a lot of time because of that stupid tape recorder that would go. Yes, phone charm.
Okay, I've been a fan of the show since Brian Drummond days.
Yep.
When you came in, it was us too. What was it like when you had to re-record it over for Kai?
I really enjoyed re-recording the series for Kai. I know maybe not everybody liked the Kai series, but I loved re-recording it because it was nice to be able to go into the very beginning of the show, the first episode, know everything there is to know about it. All the voices are set for the most part, and then it was nice to have it rewritten in a way that was very, very true to the original text. Because a lot of the original Z series was highly modified. I mean, it was technically, they took the liberties with the dialogue the first time Dragon Ball Z came around that the abridged guys do practically, so it wasn't funny. Cats love food, yeah, not in the original Dragon Ball Z series, not in the Japanese for whatever reason. Re-recording it was fun, and I was personally responsible, and you can hate me all you want, for the cast changes that happened. Some of them were because of, like, people weren't available at all and couldn't come in. And some of them were because we brought in, the voice of Frieza, and the character had been rewritten so much that it really just didn't sound right. The woman who played Frieza originally just couldn't deliver the lines fast enough as they were written now. And then Chris Ayres came in, and he's like such an incredible, amazing badass of a voice actor. He just like rolled with it, and it was really fun to experiment with that. And then, but that's about it. Yeah, DBZ Kai was awesome to re-record. It was fun. Not very often do you get a chance to get to do something again that you did like 10 years ago. You don't get very many do-overs. You got a do-over. Yes, bro.
Okay, so you probably get this question a lot of like where you're at or your player, what the favorite lines are. Are there any that you just kind of look back in hindsight and say, I never want to touch that again?
Oh God, yeah. I knew it was my least favorite line when I was recording it. I mean, I really, when we honestly, like at the time, the director who was directing me on it was the producer, and he was having this. I feel great. Yes. Yeah, I hated that from the first moment that we recorded it. But we were on a strict timeline, so we're like, should we leave it? And we're like, I guess so. And in retrospect, I wish I'd never recorded that line. It was so bad. And anytime, there are so many lines, like we keep old clips of the original Z series on our hard drive just to remind us of some of the horrible things that we did originally. Like the original voice of Captain Ginyu, looking back on it, it wasn't even properly recorded. It's just all burned out and it's all fried, like, and none of the mouth movements matched at all. It was awesome. Oh wow, a lot of creative hands. Well, he had help from the girl who looks like the person who used to work Funimation, so go ahead.
I was wondering, I guess, regardless of the series, what was your favorite saga to work on? I mean, it was either DragonBall Z, Hakusho, etc.
Oh, what series I like working on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what saga out of all of them, I guess it's kind of a hard question.
Oh, the Dragon Ball Z series, I'll just leave it at that for now. I love the Android saga. That was a great saga. Like, I love that whole saga. I love the actors that came in to work with us at that point, because that's when we added Laura Bailey, Meredith McCoy, what's called Kent Williams, Chuck Huber. So many awesome actors came in right away. Oh, and Eric Vale, of all things. And Eric is an interesting story, because Eric had come in to record with us, audition for us, and we didn't have a role for him at that time, but I remember thinking to myself, oh, there's this part coming up for this character Trunks, he might be good for that. So I wrote his name down on the audition side, thinking that maybe I'd call him back in later. Well, that part came up, and we held auditions for it about a month or two later, and we weren't finding anybody that we liked. I'm like, wait a minute, there was that one dude that I really liked for that audition, and all I could remember about it was that he had brought in a headshot. He was one of the only actors that brought in his headshot. And so I remembered finally, he was the guy with the headshot, and so he was friends with the girl that I knew from this bar that I used to go to. So I had to call the voice of Bulma at the time, Tiffany Bulmer, to contact Eric to come up and audition, and we gave him the role that day. And what's cool about Eric is that he came in super strong, and that's exactly what we needed for Trunks at that time. Like, it's not very often that you have a series that they just add a main character one day. Like, they don't even develop into it. It's like, boom, here you go, main character. It's like, this guy's the son of two of the most beloved characters on the show. Here you go. And Eric just totally kicked it totally in the ass. Yes, Armstrong pose guy. I figured you'd get really tired if I didn't pick you.
Did you ever think Mr. Popo was a bit racist?
Mr. Popo was a very nice person, actually. Mr. Popo was, he was a weird character. And the only way to play him was that he was very, very wise. He was a wise sage, but there wasn't much you could do about it. I don't think turning him purple really fixed anything necessarily. So yeah, Mr. Popo was a weird character. I'll tell you who was probably a more racist character was the character Killa. Do you guys remember him? He was a dude that came in during the Battle Royale saga, like the Battle Royale they had with Gohan. You couldn't understand anything that he said. That was my decision. I thought it'd be really funny. I just didn't realize how racist it was at the time. Like it wasn't. So is it racist if your intention is not to be racist, or I guess that just I don't know. Whatever. The voice of Cell actually did that guy, and the reason why I made him mumble all that stuff is because when he went to do his first line, he screwed up the line, and he just went, oh my gosh, yes. That's what we're doing. This guy, he wasn't important to the series at all. He was basically one of the characters that just basically say, hi, I'm a character that tells you what's going on. So I figured it doesn't matter. It was awesome, and I'm very proud of him. Albeit it was a little racist, and unintentionally. Yes, hand-waving dude book thing.
I have to ask, what was with the 8,000 in Kai?
The 8,000 in Kai? Well, because Dragon Ball Z Kai was supposed to be a shortened, more reverent version of Dragon Ball Z that was supposed to be closer to the Japanese, I thought it'd be clever to put over 8,000 on the discs because that's real, and it really was supposed to be over 8,000 in the translation, that's what it says. And we put over 9,000 on TV where it belonged. So. Everybody gets what they want. Because for as many people who are like the over 9,000, there are just as many people who are like, that's not what it really was. Oh, in fact, the hardest conversation was one that I had to have with some Japanese clients when we were working on one of the games. They're like, we found a bug in the game, and the character says over 9,000, and it's technically over 8,000. Why did you make the change? I'm like, well, it's a long story. We don't understand. I'm like, okay, here you go. And so I type it all out. I try and explain it. I send them the clip, and they go, we still don't understand. So like we have to keep over 9,000 in the game. That's just the way it is. Like, they're, okay, we trust you. Creepy doll thing. One-legged doll thing.
It's not one-legged.
Oh, 2 legs, 2 stumps, 2 paraplegic doll thing.
Okay, so you've already established that Vegeta was like your favorite character. Which character of the voices he did that you least liked out of them all?
Least liked,
Like, if they suddenly disappeared, you would not care as much.
well, one of the characters I least liked, honestly, and it wasn't because I disliked the character at all, it's just I had to take over for this guy, Mark, on Ox King, which he was easy to do in the series, like, GT. But then when we went back and did the Dragon Ball series, he had a lot of lines, he was supposed to be super powerful, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I had to give that guy up. I gave that to Kyle Aber, who's been doing them ever since. Who else? Burner's voice used to be really, really hard on my voice, so that was a pain. I loved doing Corin's voice. He was really, really easy. Because he had, like, I love Corin's voice because it's always this weird. Somehow, for some reason, he has an accent. I don't know. He was from upstate New York or something. Yes, Sergeant Froghat. The hardest part about voice acting is that it never happens as much as you wish it did. Like, you're always wanting to get cast on something else, and there's always a worry of like, what if I don't get cast again? The other hard thing about voice acting is that it doesn't matter how cruddy your day is or what's happened to you. Like, people don't really care about that at all. So you have to go in and sometimes act really happy and stuff on days when you're not really happy. I mean, I guess all of us have to do that at our jobs to some degree, but pretending to be really giddy when, you know, your dog just died is just not fun. And then the other hardest thing about like voice acting is having to scream for about 2 weeks straight every day. Yeah, that sucks. Yes?
How do you feel about Dragon Ball Kai being cut short?
I was disappointed they cut Dragon Ball Kai down to Cell Saga. I wanted it to keep going. I totally did, because I was looking forward to working with like the cast from the Buu Saga. Because Hercule is one of my favorite characters in the whole show. He's like the most rounded character of all of the characters. He actually has a nice, decent story arc. He has a character, at the end he's a different character than he is at the beginning. Like, Vegeta's still a jerk. And, you know, Goku just runs off like, see you guys! And Gohan is just going to have problems. Because at some point, people are going to have to go, Gohan, seriously, you cannot bring people back into Dragon Balls anymore. There's a point where people just have to die. They have to die. You cannot keep bringing them back. Like, it'd be funny, like eventually it'd be nice to have a series or a short film where Vegeta just keeps, Gohan just keeps bringing back Videl over and over again, and she's like, I'm really sick, just let me go. Anyway, he brings her back, she survives for like another 5 minutes, and he has to go find the Dragon Balls again. I'm serious about that. Yes? I stumbled into voice acting completely. Like I knew I wanted to do something with my voice. I went to school originally as an opera major at the University of North Texas. I had a scholarship to sing, and I realized after a year doing that I did not want to do that at all. Like it's like, wow, this sucks. Like, it just wasn't right for me because my voice coach was saying you can't stay out late. You shouldn't drink, caffeinated beverages. You shouldn't drink beer. You shouldn't drink alcohol. You shouldn't smoke. You shouldn't go to bars. You shouldn't talk to people. This is just not the career for me. Like, so I did. So I left and went to go. I left that opera department. Went back to Texas, went back to Houston where I'd grown up, and started working at radio stations. And when I finally went back to Dallas to go finish my degree in radio, television, film, that's when I got offered the job working at Funimation. And so I took that. And yeah, it's been a trip. I would not, if I had not auditioned for that role that day when I came in, I would not be here now. It's so weird to think that everything changed because of that one decision. And I feel a lot of reverence to Dragon Ball Z for that reason. Like I can talk about it forever because I've been doing it forever. So. Yes, question, exclamation.
So you were talking earlier about how you enjoyed redubbing the ties. Do you ever get tired of redubbing the show? Because I see you in every video game, they seem to be able to get you to redub the entire series over and over again.
Yeah.
Little mini quests.
Yeah, I'll be honest, there are some times where it does get to be a bear repeating the same thing over and over again. But with over 9,000, I'm getting really used to that and really comfortable with saying the same thing over and over again. It's really helped me practice that. I do wish that they could be a little bit more creative in the games that they release, but a lot of that has to do with the license itself. Apparently Toei is really, really careful about creating new stories and things like that. They don't want to branch too far from Akira Toriyama's original vision from it, so they're kind of scared to do it. But I love it when they kind of, I would love to see a video game, like a Kinect game, or I used to say a Wii game of just Trunks. I'd be happy to have just an all Trunks saga video game, where he's just it'd almost be like a Trunks android / zombie kind of stuff. Where you just have a sword and you're just killing thousands and thousands and thousands of androids constantly. I would play that over and over and over again. So there you go. Yes, I'm going to go to you guys right after the two people who are in a very uncomfortable position. If I had the Dragon Balls, what would I wish for? Wow. Okay. Well, realistically, I would wish for a new Dragon Ball Z series that would keep going for about 2,500 episodes, and the 2,000 of them would just be two people just standing there back and forth. And infinite wealth, yes.
I was thinking immortality.
Yeah, I would wish I could be more talented.
Immortality.
Oh, sweet. I heard you right. I just wanted to make myself feel awkward about it. Yes. Third person.
Okay, so I know you've had a near monopoly on all the roles in the Dragon Ball, but is there a role where you look back at somebody else doing it and you're just
Not really, because anytime I thought I could do better at it, I ended up getting that role. So it gets sick all of a sudden, or car accident. No, I thought everyone was awesome. I get really jealous of Chris Rager when he plays Hercule, because I'm like, God, that would be a fun part to play. But I literally cast Chris and Josh Martin from the same comedy troupe. They're in this troupe called Section 8. And Josh Martin's the guy who played Majin Buu. And he used to do, in his comedy show, he would do this song called it was Pillsbury Doughboy, but he was doing really dirty gangster rap or something like that. And so I was like, I need that voice. So basically, Majin Buu is just the Pillsbury Doughboy voice.
That's what it is.
Extended over many episodes. Yes?
Is there any roles that you didn't do but have always wanted to do?
I always wanted to play Solid Snake from the very first Metal Gear games. Even though I can't really take anything away from David Hayter's work, he's freaking awesome at it. But that's the one role, like, oh my gosh, I wish they'd make something for me like that. Another voice that I got, but actually didn't end up on the game, is that for a while I was cast as the voice of Marcus Phoenix in all of the Gears of War games.
No way.
Or actually, on the first Gears of War game. Because when they were first recording that, the unions in California were having all this trouble, and so they couldn't record out in California, so they all came out to Texas to start recording stuff. But then once the unions settled everything, the game company was like, oh, we've got to do all our work back out in California. So I always regret not getting that voice, because that was I was like, yes, that's my Metal Gear Solid voice. I can do that one. Yes, now I'm going to go to you guys. Sorry.
How many times exactly have you got to say that you're ascended above the level of the average Saiyan?
How many times have I actually said that I've had to ascend above the average Saiyan? I haven't had to say that too many times, I'll be honest.
Really?
Not too many people ask me to do that. Is that something you wanted me to say?
I mean, within the show, but sure.
Oh, okay. Are you talking about within the show, how many times, like, how often did I have to say that when we were dubbing that? I never got tired of Vegeta saying that, ever, for whatever reason. I just liked it when he said it, because Vegeta's ideas were better than anybody else's. Now, granted, if it was up to Vegeta, and he got his way all the time, then the episodes would have only been like 25 episodes long. I'll destroy them all now. Okay, let's go do that. Like, it just happened over and over again. And I really did not like Goku as a character at all. I just did not like that character. And I don't know if it's because I played Vegeta and had to hate him so much, or I just listened to him and I was like, you know, he's right. Like, this guy's a jerk. This guy's such a dork. I mean, seriously, like, you've trained your entire life. You've basically been estranged from your parents. You were kidnapped by, like, the most evil person in the galaxy and forced into training your entire life so that you would one day inherit this giant planet. It gets blown up. You don't have a planet anymore, so your goal is to be the strongest person in the world, and then some, like, weirdo, like, shows up and, like, hits his head on something, all of a sudden can, like, shoot fire out of his hands, too. Like, you've had no formal training! So, yeah. I never liked Goku. I'll focus eventually. No, I probably won't. Yes?
What did you originally audition for?
I originally auditioned for a small Dragon Ball feature called Sleeping Princess in Devil's Castle. It was a little movie about, well, them finding a princess in Devil's Castle. I was the voice of Yamcha and Igor, like this little impish looking dude. Yamcha's voice is like this. He's cool, like in Dragon Ball, he's a cool character. He's like totally awesome in Dragon Ball, and then at the end of Dragon Ball Z, something really weird happens to him. I guess maybe a near-death experience, or actually an actual death experience. And then he's resurrected, and then by the end of the series, he's such a dork. He's like, hey, Chi-Chi, Goku's got the heart virus and everything, so like, if anything happens to him, I'm always